everyone. Welcome back. We are just going to do our Fight for Life radio broadcast tonight, and I have Tammy back here with me. We'll do a formal introduction here in a minute. We just had our prayer time and asked the Lord to bless this conversation.
Yeah.
Let me know when you are ready to go.
I'm ready. I'm just sipping on tea.
It is Tuesday night tea time with Tammy.
That's right. So I'm just sipping tea.
Sipping tea. We have our tea tonight.
Yes, because you can't have tea time without tea. So
with Tammy.
All right.
We are so extra.
I promise we didn't have sugar right before this. Just tea. What would you like to talk about, Jessica?
We're sweet enough as it is. We don't need any extra sugar. Okay. I'm going to do our introduction here in a second. I know that we have a couple people already tuning in. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
If you have any questions while we're going, I will do my best to try to answer them. Carl says, what do I open? Celeste, can you please text Carl and let him know we are live right now? He's welcome to join us on Facebook or Instagram. All right, let's go ahead and get this show started. It's 8:24 now, so we'll need to end at 8:49. Don't let me forget.
Okay, 8:49.
Good evening, friends. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jess, and I have Tammy back with me as co-host on Fight for Life Radio. We are ambassadors on behalf of the unborn babies everywhere, and we're here to share insights and real-life stories of what we've experienced in this fight for life.
Yes.
I have today's guest is Tammy Mahaney. She's a doctor of nurse practice, family nurse practitioner, student at Medical University of South Carolina, and is a first choice sonographer, for the past 7 years. Last time we interviewed Tammy, we shared about an upcoming opportunity that she had to speak as the lone wolf pro-life speaker at a UNLV debate panel on abortion. That event did take place last Thursday, and so we wanted to share a little bit about what happened there. Welcome back, Tammy.
Thank you for having me.
Tammy, did you want to just set the stage for us? Tell us what happened when you got there and how do you feel it went?
Sure. No, I was super excited and grateful that Nevada Right for Life reached out to me through Kathleen Miller and asked if I could represent them at this panel. And this is an annual health law conference that the Boyd Law School hosts every single year. So this was such a great opportunity, and the people that were on the panel was Craig Newby, who is the first Assistant Attorney General of Nevada. And then we had Sarah Peters, a Nevada Assemblywoman, and then Dr. Carla Torres, who's a Las Vegas board certified obstetrician and gynecologist and abortionist. And then there was me. And so we all sat together at this table, but when I first came in, the professor of the law school did introduce himself. His name is David Orentiger, and everyone was super friendly. And I went into the room. It was a big courtroom, and I just went around and introduced myself to every single person. I said, hi, my name's Tammy. What's your name? I'm so glad that you came. And I did that to every single person, and there was probably about maybe 100 people in the room.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah. So it was great. I just did a quick meet and greet in addition to the panelists that were there. And that's kind of how it started. And then I sat down. I was the last person to speak and present. But I think overall it went very well. I think it was a great place where everyone got to speak and be heard, and it was respectful.
So who opened the debate?
Each person just spoke about, the topic was how the Dobbs Law affect Nevada right now, currently, on abortion.
When I tuned in, I did hear them talking about, how banning abortion in other states has brought an influx of women to Las Vegas, which is what we call abortion tourism. Mm-hmm. And that how it's actually affecting local women and being able to access abortion locally. Did you
Yeah, so Dr. Torres mentioned that she said that she's seeing about a 20% of her patients are out-of-state patients. I'm not sure what our percentage is at First Choice that we're seeing, but I know we are seeing a lot of out-of-state as well. And somebody had commented, how can we help? Like, what can we do to help the situation? And she said, well, we need more resources, we need more funding, we need more doctors to provide abortion. She did mention this fact that only about 15% of obstetricians will perform abortion, and it is a very difficult technique, as you can imagine. Dismembering babies and keeping the woman alive during the process is very difficult. And
she said that.
Yeah, she said that only 15%. I'm explaining that it is difficult because of that. But it was encouraging for me to hear that she did admit only 15%, because I'm actually a member of APLOG, which is doctors. These are all obstetrics and gynecologists that are pro-life, and that's about 85%. So those numbers matched up pretty well.
Wow.
And the reason why 85% are for life is because they know that there is life in the womb, and they don't want to destroy or end that life. So
well, we can't refute the science.
No. And so when she was encouraging for more funding and resources, I kind of chipped in and said, yes, you're right. We do need more resources and funding and help for women with other options, such as adoption and financial, and also helping them with whatever their needs are to help them encourage and empower them to choose life.
Amen. So what story did you open up your presentation with?
Yeah, so I felt like I was the last speaker of the night, and I could tell people's eyelids were getting a little heavy. It was late, a long day. So I just kind of got up and stood up, and my mom had called that morning, and she said, don't forget to tell everybody to thank their mothers for choosing life, because nobody would be here today for the conference if their moms didn't choose life. So I said, shout out to everybody's mom. Thank you for choosing life. And everybody smiled and laughed and clapped, because it's true. None of us would be here today if our mothers didn't choose life.
Amen. So you said that there were 3 other panelists, right?
Yes.
Did you feel like the odds were against you walking into this? Last week we kind of had a conversation where you felt like you were Daniel walking into the lion's den. When you got there, do you feel like that really kind of played out?
Yeah, so I would say the majority of the audience and the law students and the public, as well as all the panelists and the host, they were all pro-choice. I was the only pro-life representative. So the answer is yes.
So what was your interactions like? Now, this question came from Celeste, who was somebody that got to be there and watch the debate happen. Her and Carl have several questions, and I believe Carl is asking also questions for somebody else on his behalf. What were your interactions like with other panelists, and what do you feel like the atmosphere was like?
So I made it a point to just go up to them first. It didn't seem like they were going to approach me. So I just came up to everybody, again, just like I did to the audience, and just introduced myself, shook their hand, and said, I'm just really happy to be here. And when I looked at Dr. Torres, I said, you kind of look familiar. And since I work in surgical services and I've worked at 3 different local hospitals, I said, which hospitals did you work at? And she mentioned one of them, and I said, oh, okay, I've worked there. And we knew some of the same people and similar circles. So there was a little bit of familiarity there. And so I just wanted it to be a very light and comfortable atmosphere. I'm a friendly person, so that's just what I did.
Amen. How fair do you feel like the proctor's guidelines of time to present for each of you were? Now, there was an incident that happened when it came to your turn. What happened?
Well, I got cut off, but
what did you say immediately preceding them cutting you off? What were you talking about?
Well, so I first started off talking a little bit about myself and why I'm passionate about what I do, which is protecting and saving lives from the womb to natural death. And I started to talk about abortion. I said, you know, a lot of us here, we're here to talk about abortion laws, but most people I find, whether they're pro-life, pro-choice, unsure, legislators, or even patients that have had abortion themselves, don't even know what abortion is.
Right.
They don't know that there's an abortion pill, there's chemical abortion. They don't know that there's surgical abortion. They don't know about second and third trimester abortions. And so I'd said, I'd like to explain that, because it would be important for us to all have a clear definition of what abortion is. So I began to describe, I was the only one with a presentation, so I had a little PowerPoint presentation, and I didn't have anything graphic, and I had just placed one of my own ultrasounds of a little 10-week baby dancing in the mother's womb, and started to describe the abortion pill, because this baby was a model of what the FDA approves up to 10 weeks to take the abortion pill. And I began to describe the process of taking the first pill and how it blocks the hormones, and then how that at that moment it's important to let patients know, and this isn't part of informed consent, that there is such a thing as abortion pill reversal. So I talked a little bit about that, because a lot of there's some women that regret it immediately and they want options. And so APR, abortionpillreversal.com, you can look them up. They do have a hotline as well. Women have an option. They have a choice to stop the abortion at that moment. And then, but if they don't and they continue to proceed, the second pill is the pill that causes the contractions, the cramping, and the bleeding that pushes the baby out. And so what I said was, most women have no clue that they're about to give birth to a dead baby. And at that point, I know the room was uncomfortable. There's a few people that left. I think they complained to the host, because at that point, the host came up to me and said, "I'm so sorry, we're gonna have to go straight to Q&A." And I said, okay, because I'm gonna be gracious about it. There's no reason to fuss. But at that moment, a student stood up, or some lady in the back, and said, "Excuse me, can she have 5 more minutes? Because what she's saying is very interesting." And the professor thought about it for a second and said, "No, we're going to go to Q&A." And so I said, "You know what, that's totally fine. I'm going to stay as long as you'd like, and I'll answer any questions you guys have." And I have a lot of material as well, and resources. So I just went back to my spot. I did feel like, I was the only one that got cut off. A time limit wasn't mentioned, so it was interesting. But
Did they allow you to receive Q&A?
So that's an interesting thing as well. So I think, so the audience was allowed to ask questions, and also there was questions that the host had presented, but I was specifically omitted in all of the questions.
Oh.
So I was the only person out of the 3 people, out of the 4 of us,
that weren't allowed to answer the questions.
Nobody asked me any questions or addressed any questions to me. And I felt like afterwards I learned that there were a few pro-life people in the crowd, and they had their hands raised, and they did complain that the professor or the host didn't pick them.
Sure.
And didn't ask me any questions. So, but I did stay almost 2 hours after the event, because people did have lots of questions. So
right.
I was happy to stay and answer lots of questions.
Just checking to see everyone that is joining live right now on our social media says, well, Ghost says Tammy did a great job.
Thanks, Ghost.
And she thanked all the mothers.
I did. That's right.
So Carl has a specific question on here. If you knew that they were only going to give you 12 minutes, what out of all of your presentation would you have put in those first 12 minutes? Do you think you would have done exactly what you did, or would you have prioritized something else in front?
That's a good question, Carl, and I thought about that, because I'm like, gosh, I really got to get this under 10 minutes just in case I do get cut off in the future. And I would have focused more on what abortion is. I think that's very important, because it is one of the most hottest controversial topics that's out there right now, and people have no idea what it is. And we're redefining it as women's health care, as women's rights, but nobody knows what abortion is. They don't know about, like I said, the chemical pill. We didn't even start talking about, I would have focused on the second and third trimester, where babies are being dismembered. And all of it's important because, like I said, women who've even had abortions in the past don't even know the truth, and eventually they will know the truth. I had a client that had an abortion when she was 18, and when I scanned her, she was 20 weeks, and she was actually excited about the baby. But when I told her that the baby was about 20 weeks old, she started crying, and I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "When I was 18, my mother forced me to have an abortion, and the baby was 20 weeks. And I never got to see the ultrasound.
Oh, wow.
But now I'm seeing how big my baby was."
Wow.
And you explained the different types of abortion to me, and I know that that's what happened to my baby was dismembered piece by piece, alive. And
Wow.
so it was...
And you said this happened after the panel?
Well, this was a client that I had years ago.
Okay.
I don't know, in a span of years. But the point is that education is important, empowering women is important. I would have focused more on the solutions, because a lot of times in these debate type situations, it's just, one side presents, the other side presents, but nobody comes up with actual solutions. And on my slide, I did emphasize the Hippocratic Oath, which is...
I just watched that clip, and it was truly a mic drop moment. Do you want to explain what happened when you were talking about that?
Well, I for hundreds, if not thousands of years, actually, medical doctors would proclaim an oath, the Hippocratic Oath, which is essentially that they will abstain from any intentional wrongdoing and harm. And within the Hippocratic Oath, it does actually mention that it says, "Similarly, I will not give to a woman a pessary to cause abortion," which means a poison. So
thanks for explaining that.
Yeah. I said, our goal as medical professionals is to protect and save lives. I said, wouldn't you want a doctor or a nurse who would want to protect and save your life or your family member's life? And it was kind of a mic drop moment. But again, I would have focused more on the solutions, which is empowerment and love. Supporting a culture of life instead of a culture of death, supporting pregnancy resources, empowering women, empowering men and families, because we know that when men are supportive of the woman, then the chances of the woman choosing life is even greater. Empowering other communities, churches to get involved, empowering government, education in schools, education. And I learned that the legislators,
real education.
The lawmakers need to be educated on what abortion is too. And then finally, I had this wonderful quote by Gary Chapman, who wrote The 5 Love Languages. And he talked about love being an empowerment. Of course, he's going to talk about love. But love and loving results in a compassionate society that reaches across social, racial, economic, political, and national lines, and it unifies people. And you and I have seen that.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen that over and over again. Love connects the hearts of people, including the heartbeat of an unborn child with their mother.
Oh, I love that.
Actually, I made that one up, but that
I thought that was part of the quote. You got me.
Gary Chapman said the first part. I was saying the other. And then ultrasound is a window to the womb, and the heartbeat is the sound of the unborn.
Wow.
And when we play that heartbeat, a lot of women cry.
Yes.
And it really,
it hits a nerve, it strikes home, and they know that it's another life inside of them.
Yeah.
They can't deny it.
It's not their heartbeat, because oftentimes the baby's heartbeat is twice that of the mother's.
Right.
So a normal heart rate's between 60 to 90 in you and I. But with the baby, it's like 120 to 180.
Right.
And that heartbeat is so strong and so fast, it's undeniable that there's another little human being in there. And it's exciting. And it changes life. It changes women.
Well, we had another question on here from Carl. It says, "It seemed to me that your private conversation in the hallway afterwards with Dr. Torres, the OBGYN, over three local hospital OB departments, and the fact that you mentioned to the audience that both of you seem to have met in years previous, that you may have the thought that a relationship of deeper sharing may develop after this forum. For the purpose of understanding each other's strong beliefs on opposite sides of the issue, and for you to continue to provide a Christian witness into this MD's heart."
Yeah, so I just find that when you love people, genuinely agape love, unconditional love. There's no strings attached. People are very attracted to that. It's a magnet. I mean, that's what Jesus did. And so I didn't have any negative intentions with Dr. Torres. I was just, I was happy to actually interact with her and have conversations. So I did, after the conference, I made a point to talk to people that were pro-choice, and especially Dr. Torres. I thanked her for coming and just conversing. And we did talk about, I said, you know, I'm concerned about women, the resources for women after abortion.
Sure.
And I talked to her about that. And she said, yeah. And I said, there needs to be a lot of resources for them because, you know, of the increase in mental health, anxiety, depression. We know that women, it's like, I think it's like 122%.
Did she deny?
Commit suicide? No, she didn't. In fact, when I was giving my presentation and talking about abortion, she nodded her head. And I had a moment where I forgot the name of the second pill. And I looked at her and I said,
I think I remember saying that part.
I said, wait a minute, mifepristone, misoprostol. And I looked and she's like nodding her head like that's what, she didn't deny what the abortion entailed and the process of all of it. And so we were in agreement of all of that.
Right.
But I was trying to encourage her that there's other resources and the support and love that we need to give for women. And I think it just open a door for that conversation to happen, and she seemed to be very receptive about it. So
I think when we talked yesterday about doing tonight's show, you had mentioned something about suicide rates for post-abortive women, how they increase even on the anniversary of their abortion.
Yeah, so they find that with these increased suicide rates that it usually happens on the anniversary of the abortion or on the baby's due date.
Wow.
And it's just really sad.
Well, you don't think about stuff like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about, you know, how your chances of getting increased chances of getting breast cancer or cervical cancer, you know, all these other physical things, but they don't talk about
the mental health.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, was there anything that you wanted to close with? I'm going to get into some announcements here after this. We only have 4 more minutes.
Oh my gosh, how am I going to do that?
This time has passed so quickly.
It always does. You know, I was on a plane on Saturday. I'm going to make this real quick. And there was a guy that sat across from me, and he just started talking to me and was really friendly. And I started talking because I like to be friendly and talk to people on the plane because it's an opportunity to share the gospel. And he actually was a pastor, and he was going to a conference in Texas. And he started to tell me this story about this young woman who was 15 who was raped and chose life. And she was shunned by the church, and they kicked her out because they thought that she would be a bad influence, you know, as a pregnant teen to the church. And she gave the baby up for adoption. And she went on to be successful, the mayor of a town, and had 3 other children. But the people that, what did he say? He said that baby that was adopted was me, and it was him.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. So he's telling me this story. There was way more in it, and I can't do it in 4 minutes. I just can't, Jessica. But it was such a phenomenal story, and it reminded me how circumstances don't determine the value of the human life that's conceived. Like the circumstances, whether it's rape or whatever. He said, my life has value, and I've been a pastor for over 30 years in this church, and I've written all these books, and I've encouraged all these people, and wow. I'm just like, I just couldn't stop smiling, and I said, do you know what I do? So it was just such an encouraging conversation, and I think, you know, God put that person in my life at that moment. It was 2 days after the conference, just to encourage me.
I'm sure it was mutual.
Yes, it was.
So that's going to conclude our talk tonight. We do want to make a couple announcements before we close out. First, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks
again,
for
Tammy,
me.
and hopefully we can do this again next week.
Okay.
So there is a petition that's circulating that's in protest of CVS, Walgreens, and Rite Aid right now that's selling the abortion pill. If you'd like to sign that, you can find that petition on our social media accounts. On Facebook, we are FCPS Friends. On Instagram, we are FCPS_Friends. Today is the last day of Sanctity for Life, and this is the month that we're dedicating to setting up our fundraisers for the year. If you'd like to host a fundraiser for First Choice Pregnancy Services, you can contact us at fcpsfriends.org, or you can call us at 702-294-2273. There was a story that I wanted to share tonight, but we don't have time, so you'll just have to check our social media or tune back in next week. Thank you so much for joining Fight for Life Radio. God bless and have a wonderful week.
Bye.
All right. Does anyone have any questions on our social media for Tammy while we have her here? Celeste says this isn't like
Condition of the heart. Yeah.
yes, it's yes. Amazing, Celeste says. And then Carolyn says, Tammy represented the pro-life position very well. She charmed the audience.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Doesn't she always?
I just say love wins, right?
Amen.
Love wins.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. We're going to go ahead and sign off for now, but be sure to tune in next week for another Tuesday Night Tea Time with Tammy. Oh, wait. Tuesday Night Tea Time with Tammy.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.